This is Weights and Wealth, your one-stop shop for entertaining education on building a stronger body and bank account.
We are not doctors or financial advisors and must warn you this is not medical or investing advice. It is for your entertainment.
Welcome back to Weights and Wealth, the number one faith, family, freedom, fitness, and finance podcast in the U.S.
Nailed it, Nick. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. This shout out goes to Cooper from Albany, New York. Cooper shared us on his Instagram story. So, Cooper, thank you for sharing the podcast. We appreciate it. That's the number one way we grow is sharing through word of mouth and on social media. So, Cooper, shout out. You're a real one. Thanks for being a good listener.
Act of faith, sharing us. Might lose some friends now.
All right. This week's wealth wisdom of the week is to look through your bank statements and your credit card statements and know what you're actually paying for. Because sometimes subscriptions, like you can sign up for them or sign up for a free trial and you had to put in your credit card and then you didn't end up using it. They're easy to forget about. So if you just look through your bank statement or your credit card statement each month, you can find those. Like I found Amazon Prime. I've been paying for that for a few months and I didn't know about it. So I canceled that. But
Nice.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. I think I need to cancel my Rocket Lawyer subscription. I'm pretty sure that's been active for 2 or 3 months. Getting myself out of a good chunk of money there.
Let's move on to the intro article.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who put this in here, who found it.
But bottom line up front, the number of working age males saying they don't want a job has soared by 600,000 since COVID to 3.1 million. And this is in the UK. So
Daily Mail article.
Yep. And yeah. Speaking of like online news outlets, a lot of their like compensation these days comes from advertising. Like I've got Walgreens. I got a colonoscopy screening.
There's like 4 different banners with ads on here.
Yeah, Tezspire.
Nick, what were your banners? We'll post a picture here.
Mine were all about Zen and Evo, I think is the other one.
Nick's entire screen is just Zen ads.
I started like a Zen meme page a little while ago. So for a while, I was only looking up like Zen stuff on my computer. But yeah.
That's pretty funny.
All right, back to the article. People don't want to work anymore? What is this?
Yeah, so, well, in the UK. So this is it's a first world country, allegedly. Basically, they're saying that there's a massive spike in the number of men who like don't want a job. It's not like they are sick or unemployed or whatever. They just are like, yeah, I do not want to work anymore. And the welfare state in England is far more advanced than here in the US. They have like socialized healthcare. There's a lot more benefits going on there. So like for this survey, options included studying, looking after a home or family, temporarily sick, long-term sick, and retired. Some 7.661 million people simply said they did not want a job, more than 81% of the total inactive. And so they don't have stats on how many of these people are in benefits, but I would assume that we can.
It's probably a large number.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you're not just not working and not on benefits because like unless you're active in like a crime family or something, there's no way you're going to be able to live. Like that's part of day-to-day life is you have to go out and buy bread and milk and pay rent. Or pay your mortgage if you own a home. So like if you're just refusing to work, you're either on the dole from the government or family members. And I don't know. This article is weird to me because I can't think of like a situation in where I would be like, yeah, I don't want to go out and do something. because whether
we're
it's
made to work. This is part of Viktor Frankl. We brought it up before, but Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, one of the basically main theses of the book is that we're meant to work, and we find purpose and fulfillment in working.
Yeah. And I mean, like this article is saying that like they're trying to blame it on generational shifts. They're saying that from some quarters that Generation Z is not interested in forging careers. And it's a complex issue because if you're totally demoralized, let's say you went to, university, as they say in Europe, and you can't get a job in whatever field of study you chose, whether it's like practical or not, you could have majored in art and wanted to be like a curator at the Lou, or in finance and worked at Bain or Goldman Sachs. And if you can't do what you pretty much signed up to do, I understand why people are like, oh well, no, I don't want to go work at a mid-level manager at a restaurant or something. It is kind of insulting to yourself, but at the same time, that is a significant amount of people, because like 600,000 is not a ton in the US, but it's still that's a good chunk of people, and it's even more significant in a smaller country like the UK. So they're saying that there's around 900,000 vacancies in the economy, and there are ample opportunities for people to get on and get ahead in the world of work. So they're saying that it's basically it's government spokesmen saying like, hey, like, don't give up, don't be sad, like, please come work, we need your tax money. And then there's just a bunch of like totally cool people that are like, no, I'm not going to work at all. And neat.
Some people like Nick just decided to stop working and travel the world, right, Nick? Is that what happened in July for you, or?
Yeah, about 3 weeks. For like 3 weeks, I just kind of traveled around a little bit. No, I went to Costa Rica with my family, and then to Ireland with one of our buddies from college, Pat. Was a nice break for sure. It was cool seeing a different country because I've never really been outside of this country before. Always wanted to go to Ireland. It was very beautiful there. Cliffs of Moher were insane. I don't know, wait, Sean, have you been to Ireland?
Twice. Yeah, once when I was 7, and then when it's like my junior year of college, went for a week. So it's a great spot. Yeah, definitely worth a visit if you're going to Europe anytime.
Yeah, a lot of natural beauty there. So Pat and I took trains pretty much all over the place, and the amount of sheep and cows that we saw were insane. Like all we saw on the train were sheep and cows.
Oh yeah, when I was around, when I was there the first time, I remember we were on just like a walk with a bunch of my family, and we were kind of in the more rural area of Ireland, like south. It's in Kerry. It's a small town called Killarney. It's like the mouth of Killarney National Park, which is really incredible if you ever get to go there. But we were walking along this kind of like farm road, and some farmer opened the gate, and there was just this massive stampede of sheep that were all spray painted red. And I was 6 or 7 years old, so I was about this tall. And, the sheep kind of came up to my shoulder. And me and my cousins were like right next to like when these sheep just kind of stampeded out of this gate. And they started chasing us. We just ran down this lane and had to climb a tree to get away from the sheep. It was pretty funny. It's a very interesting country, and it's full of, exciting times. Like I had a family member who went there for a trip and then just decided to stay, didn't really have a plan. And him and his buddy, they like just wandered around and did farm work and like slept in people's fields. Like they were pretty much like homeless in Ireland for 3 weeks. And then finally saved up enough money to come back. I don't know. They've done some crazy stuff, those two guys. But they're a lot of fun. So if you ever get the chance to go to Ireland, totally worth it.
Nick, favorite part about Costa Rica and favorite part about Ireland?
Ireland was probably Killarney. Just seeing that city, it's like a summer town there. So like from what the people there were telling me, that people like go vacation there in the summer, but then in the winter it's like a lot more dead. But probably the cleanest city I have ever been to, and just lots of shops, good food and stuff like that. Sean also mentioned that like I think it was like the Killarney National Park. Pat and I spent all day there hiking. I think we hiked something like 14 or 15 miles.
Did you do the Gap of Dunlow?
I'm not sure. I don't know. We just went around this lake pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like the beginning part of it, because there's the big castle, the big square castle.
Solid Castle.
I'm forgetting the name of it right now. But my family actually owns the Fles Castle, which is right up on top of the city. Mm-hmm. You can it's about a 1.5 mile walk. If you were going to Killarney, I would have let them know, and could have gone in there. Messed up. Excuse me. Need a drink of my raw milk to quench my throat.
What about Costa Rica, Nick?
Costa Rica, honestly, probably the food there. So labor is like super cheap down there. So like a few days, like my dad got a chef, and he would just made just this incredible food from scratch. The fruit down there tastes a lot better. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Because they don't like spray glyphosate on everything?
I mean, probably. And like all the stuff had seeds too. Like watermelon had a bunch of seeds. Grapes had seeds. So
nice.
Yeah.
So like I feel like taking the seeds out of fruit is like neutering your dog. It's like you're just destroying its ability to reproduce, and you're taking all the virility out of that organism. So I think I think we can honestly say that seedless fruit is like a neutered dog.
Okay. Quote of the show from Sean: "Unneutered dogs taste better." Is that what you're saying?
I'm not part of that culture, but certain areas of the world, I'm sure you could ask them that. I do not have firsthand experience. So, but speaking of like quality diet and stuff like that, shout out to Greenbrook Farms for allowing me to become a partner in the herd share agreement, and now I have access to a gallon of delicious raw milk on a weekly basis. So that's one of the cool things about living up here in Virginia, is that you can't buy and sell raw milk, but you can become part of the organization and then have access to the fruits of their labor. It's like owning stock in a company, and the milk is the dividends in a way. So it's pretty cool. Tastes great. I'm not going to say if you should drink it or not, but I personally enjoy it.
Yeah, we grew up drinking raw milk in New York. There's ways to get around it in every state, I would say. It's just the access to farms. Like a lot of times, if you really want it, you're going to have to drive quite a ways to get it. But here they have the co-op that kind of eliminates.
Makes it super easy. You just go pick it up and you're good.
This week's episode is pitfalls. Yeah, biggest mistakes people make with training and money.
What was that?
That was not a voice crack. I was just like lengthening the question. It just kept going up.
No limit.
All right. Well, who's getting us started on wealth pitfalls? Nick, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I think the number one thing that people or like the number one mistake that people make with their money is like not spending it on things that make them happy. Now
that's the number one mistake people make.
I think so.
Okay.
Do you or no?
Keep going.
You disagree with me?
Ted is an automaton. He doesn't care about happiness. Ted does not care about quality of life. He refused to use a microwave. Okay, so for context here, we just ate dinner, right? You know, it's a Monday night. Ted's over at my house. Madison makes a delicious dinner. Ted brought his own. And
it's not like I didn't accept the dinner. Alex and I had been out.
Yes.
And after shooting, we got Mexican. I had leftover burritos, so I said, "Don't worry about me for dinner.
Yes.
I'll just bring these leftovers."
Yes.
We're recording multiple episodes back to back here.
Yeah. So, but Ted comes up and he has this shrimp, steak, and chicken burrito, which is a terrifying combination.
Gotta get the protein.
You should never have more than 3 different types of animal in like a single receptacle. That's just something horrible is going to come out of that. You know. It's like when you mix like a corgi and a gray, like a wolfhound or something, you know, it's a bad move. And he just he sits down with this soggy burrito and I'm like, "Hey dude, you want to like use the microwave or like the air fryer if you're worried about like, you know, like brain cancer or something?" He's like, "No, man, I just like it. I like it cold." And then I saw the shrimp fall out and I was like, "You're going to eat cold shrimp at my table?" And I don't know. I kind of had an issue with it. I think it's a little demented.
I've had a lot of cold meals in my life.
That's what I'm just saying is that when Ted is, you know, trying to disagree with you here, Nick, I know you've known Ted a little longer than me, but like you have to realize that this man doesn't give a about happiness. Sorry, my bad. We can bleep that out.
All right, Nick, continue.
All right. So I mean, like there are a lot of things out there, like, you know, or like a recommendation where you should spend like 30% on rent or 10% on a car or something like that. But those are generally max amounts where you can still make it work. But you know, if like a super nice apartment or a really nice house isn't going to make you happy, then there's no reason in spending that full arbitrary 30%. And that's something that I do. You know, I live well below my means when it comes to paying for my apartment. But that's so that I can spend money on things that do improve my life. And those things for me tend to be the things that save me time. Like when I was moving out of my last house, you know, rather than having to like clean out the entire thing myself, like I just decided to get cleaners and they could do it for me. And like the reason I can do that is because I live below my means in other areas. So I mean that's what's that?
Is your bed still on the floor, or is that just when you moved in?
My bed is still on the floor, but that's because I want it on the floor.
He's grounding. Yeah.
No, I had a bed frame and I just didn't really want it anymore, so I just put it on the floor.
That's okay. My bed frame was on the floor until I was about 3 months away from getting married. It's I don't like it. I have to climb up into it. I've stubbed my toe on it multiple times. I always stub my toes on everything. That's why they're like horribly ingrown. But it's it's just
I don't know. I just kind of like sleeping lower to the ground.
Yeah, then you can roll out and, you know, be good. Like this is my main thing. I think Big Mattress has like a total, you know, stranglehold on most people in America with this whole idea of a box spring. I think it is the silliest idea that has ever existed. Like, why do we have box springs? Why don't you just build the bed frame right so that the mattress doesn't sink into it? You know, like, this is very basic stuff, and it's just another way for them to squeeze another $50 out of you, or however much you pay for it. I'm telling you, man. You know, we got problems in this country. It's taxes, war, and Big Mattress.
Nick can verify. I guess we got to do an episode on Big Mattress now after Big Way and Big Egg and all the other ones.
Yeah, and I don't want to get screwed by Big Mattress, so the mattress is on the floor.
Yeah.
I went with small mattress when Nick and I lived in Milwaukee. I had like it was probably like 4 feet long. It was about an inch or two off the floor it gave me. It was just like this little mat that I slept on.
Yeah, that was from Amazon, right? It was like probably a couple $100, maybe $100.
I was like, I don't want to spend a lot on a mattress. oh, this mattress on Amazon is like $45, sold. And it was like a tiny little pad.
It was actually, the subtext is like, this is for like a large dog.
It worked for me though. I mean, I was putting in 14-hour days at the gym and coming back and sleeping on the mattress. Except for when Nick and I had to share the couch when we lost heat in the building in January in Milwaukee. All right, well, moving on to another mistake people make with their money. This is going to be my number one. I'm going to disagree with Nick here. To me, it's people not paying themselves first. We've talked on the show before about what it means to pay yourself first, putting in some sort of allotment or in your bank account, or having some sort of system where you're taking money out of your paycheck and not seeing it, and that money is going into your investments and your savings. It's pretty easy to do this, to set up an allotment so that when that direct deposit hits your bank account, that money goes straight into your savings account or into your investment account. And this will help you be able to max out whatever your investment vehicles are, whether it's your IRA or something else, without feeling like you're putting that money into it. If it just automatically goes there and you never see it, it's much easier to make that full contribution. So if you're someone that spends all your money, you like to spend on things that make you happy, for example, and you struggle to have extra money at the end of the month to put into these accounts, pay yourself first. Make that allotment. Don't even see that money. Let it work for you. Well,
for me, I would say it's probably people using just like credit cards in general, not understanding how they work, and just doing minimum payments. Well, I would say debt in general, like we live in a debt-based economy, right? Everything is run using debt. Like all like the big corporate like financiers and like personal finance people, especially like in real estate, will tell you like, leverage debt, use other people's money to do X, Y, Z. But like student loans, for example, this is one of the huge things that I think most people can relate to. Like if you're just doing the minimum payments, like you will never get out of debt. That is like the purpose of the minimum payment, is to keep you on the hook. Like you have to pay more than the minimum payment. And I think it's just like the number one thing that people do that totally like messes them up monetarily is not understanding what they're getting into when they sign up for that federal or private student loan. Because if you're signing up for $10,000 for your state university when you're 18 years old for that first semester, interest is going to start accruing, before or after graduation. And if you're just making that minimum payment, you're still going to have a lot of debt when you are 35. And you're going to be like, I've paid blah, blah, blah. Like you see this on social media sometimes. And it's really embarrassing, because I remember seeing this one. It was like this guy he's like a college professor. It's like, I've been making minimum payments for 30 years on my student loans and they're still not gone. I'm like, dude.
We talked about this in the same sense with credit cards like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Sean.
Yeah.
But it was when you set up auto pay on those credit cards, don't set up auto pay for minimum payments, because then you're going to get interest payments, just a huge waterfall of them. I mean, credit card interest payments, they're like 20% right now, right, Nick?
Yeah. And and then they compound too. So
don't put on auto pay for minimum payments. Put on auto pay for the full balance of your credit card. Essentially, you're using your credit card as like a charge card. And then if you find that you're spending too much on your credit card and can't pay the full amount, you really need to cut back on your spending.
Just cut it in half. You can't use it.
Yeah, you need to find ways to decrease your spending and stop spending money on things that make you happy, as Nick would say.
Well, you can spend things like, because it is important to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, you can't eat cold chicken, shrimp, and steak burritos every day for the rest of your life.
Well, if that makes Ted happy, then I fully support him spending money on it.
I really don't think it does. I think it just does it to be weird. But happiness matters, because if you're not happy, you go into like this negative spiral, and you're not going to have any aspiration for change or to, better yourself in any way if you're just moping around all the time. You're not going to make improvements in your life if you're just, wow, I'm really sad all the time because I'm poor. Just stop being poor. No.
Wow.
No, but you know what I mean. What I'm saying is, like, I think the return, like the ROI on spending, I don't know, X amount of money, as long as it's within reason for your personal happiness, makes a lot of sense, because you will now be operating at a higher level of mental health and general emotional stability, which will, like we talked about in like the gratitude episode. Mm-hmm. If you're grateful, for your life, you're going to be more rational when you're making financial decisions, right? Because you're not just, oh wow, my life sucks all the time.
Yeah, so I guess when we talk about spending money on things that make you happy, you yourself have to differentiate, where here am I spending money on something that is making me happy or saving me time so I can do other things, like Nick said, and where am I just spending money because I have this materialistic urge to spend? Because I think those are two very different things.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough.
Sean or Nick, what's one of the other ones you guys had on here?
I think another one is not understanding opportunity cost, or I guess understanding it and then kind of applying it to your spending. Just before you buy something, think about the other things that you could also buy with that money, and think if you would rather have that other thing, 'cause that might prevent you from buying things that you truly don't need. And like it's especially useful for bigger purchases, like if you're going to buy like a $50,000 car, if you think like, oh, if I buy a $25,000 car, then I have, $25,000 that I can use to go spend on like a vacation or something else that'll, something else that will help you enjoy life more than a better car. So I guess just thinking in terms of opportunity cost.
Yeah, that's good. When you were explaining that, I think Nick's very good at explaining all these finance terms. The way he broke down tax basis in the last episode, I think he's it shows he has a really good grasp on all these terms. But if you missed that episode, definitely go back and check that out. But what he reminded me of was one of my brothers growing up. Every time we would get money, say like from my grandma for Christmas, he would immediately spend that money. He couldn't not spend it. I don't know what it was, but like immediately he would go to the store and buy, like at one age he would buy Pokemon cards, and then he would buy these huge Lego sets. Like he couldn't keep the money in his account, whereas my sister and I were able to save a lot more of that money. And then in middle school, we were able to buy MacBooks for ourselves because we had saved up money this entire time. And my brother, when he got to middle school, didn't have enough money to buy a laptop. And then eventually he bought this really tiny Windows laptop, and it broke after like 2 months. And I had my Mac.
Need a laptop in middle school
to do homework.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, if we couldn't all use the same computer at our house, so
that's fine.
But my MacBook lasted me. That first MacBook lasted me until I think it lasted 9 years. It ran forever. But my point is, like, my little brother, he couldn't see that opportunity cost, what spending that money up front was costing him. And I think this is really important from like an investment point of view. If you're spending all your money and you're not keeping money on the side, keeping cash on the sideline for when an opportunity hits, you're going to be missing out when that opportunity comes knocking.
Sometimes I wish I could talk to like 11-year-old Ted Brewer. I feel like he hasn't changed. He's just like, it's like a mental Benjamin Button, There's no way you were like 7 years old and like, you know what, I'm going to take this money from my grandma and I'm going to save up so I can do my homework. I don't believe it. I'm just saying. When I was 7 years old, I would have been like your brother. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm buying that Lego set. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my parents did a pretty good job of like keeping our money away from us in our bank accounts up until a certain age. But like if we wanted something and we wanted to spend our quote unquote own money on it, like we had to ask my parents to get the money for us. And then they would say, are you sure you want to buy this? Like they did a pretty good job of trying to stop us from spending frivolously on money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, like when you're a kid, you're gonna waste money on stuff. Yeah. It's inevitable. Yeah.
All right. Nick, you had something about what you were talking earlier with spending money to save yourself time on things. I think you do this the most out of all of us. I did have a roommate when we were down at Fort Benning, Sean, that would pay to get his laundry done. He would send it out. It would get washed and folded in these bags and then sent back to us because he just didn't want to spend the time doing laundry. But I was like, dude.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, I gotta think it like depends on what you're doing with that time instead of just
if he's playing video games
yourself.
So.
Like, if you're playing video games, then like just go and do it yourself. But if you're spending like quality time with people, or if you're learning a new skill or something like that, then I think it's completely worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if you're spending that time studying for the LSAT or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like you said here is, like is the ROI on your time is 2 hours of your time worth, $300, right? Is it? Because like, what are you actually doing? Like, are you studying for the LSAT so that you can go to law school and, make a starting salary of $160 with bonus, and then in 10 years when you make partner you'll be able to charge people $1,000 an hour? Like, are you doing that, or are you playing video games, or are you just watching TV, or even just reading a book? I'm sorry, like, yeah, reading books is good, but like,
no, Sean, we don't want to discourage people from reading at all.
if you're gonna be shelling out a couple $100 so that you can have some reading time, I think you need to take a step back and reevaluate what you're doing the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Before you make that decision.
All right, let's move on to the weights portion of this episode, unless Nick or Sean had any last comments here on big mistakes people make.
I would say vehicles. Like, a lot of people buy
that's
like
a really good one,
a brand new car because they want to feel cool, or I don't know. There's some sort of like aesthetic appeal, or they just want something that's reliable and stuff like that. But if you're buying a used car, just spend the $60 to get a Carfax membership and be selective in what vehicles you're looking at, and do your research. Let's say an hour or two, you can probably figure out what a good vehicle to buy is. And then you run the Carfax and the VINs, and you can find out its maintenance history and its accident history. And then you're like, okay, yeah, this car might be a decade old, but it's been well maintained the whole time. And I know from my research that I can get at least 150,000 more miles on this, which will last me a couple of years.
Yeah, Nick, do you know how much new car depreciates in the first year? Is it 25%?
It's like over 10% as soon as it comes off the lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it probably varies from car to car, but it goes down a lot in the first year.
Yeah. So like when I bought my truck, I bought it off of a 2-year lease. So someone had leased it for 2 years, put 20,000 miles on it, and I got it for half the original price it was sold for.
Yeah.
So just new cars are definitely a big mistake, I would say, people make.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I get it. There's this, like, you don't want to be rolling around in a minivan if you're a 23-year-old single guy. It's a tough look. But you can definitely find something affordable that meets your personal desires. You can find a beat up old pickup truck. Those are cool. That's what I have. I just think a lot of people waste a significant amount of money on auto loans. Like some people I know, they've got, it's whether it's a $200 to $600 a month that they're paying, And I have a 2008 Dodge, and I've owned it since August of 2022, I want to say. And I've had to do 2 repairs on it, costing me a total of like $2,300 for both. And I can't imagine if I had like a 2020 Dodge, what I would be paying. Like let's say I'm paying $500 a month, like I would have already surpassed that. So just find like a reliable car that, you're going to spend, let's say on average, maybe $500 a year in repairs and maintenance. You're going to spend that in maintenance regardless, like if it's new. Like you still have to change the oil. You still have to, take it in for a checkup, tune up, all that stuff. Like just doing good preventative maintenance on your vehicle so you don't have a catastrophic failure. But when you do have those failures, it's a big chunk of change. But at the same time, if it's been well maintained and you're taking good care of it and you're not being an idiot with your vehicle, it's going to last you way longer. Like I'm going to drive my truck until it no longer exists.
Yeah.
Like I no need for anything new. Like that's, unless I become like a multi-millionaire overnight, I'm not going to get a new car.
Yeah.
Like Warren Buffett still drives, I think it's like a 2005 Toyota. Like the smartest money managers in the world are on that train. So you probably should be too.
Nick, any closing comments?
No, nothing else from me.
All right. Moving on to weights. We can kind of cycle through these like we cycled through the other ones. One of my biggest ones would be not following a program. We've mentioned this before. If you're not following a program, it's going to be really hard to consistently have progressive overload. So there's a lot of programs out there that you can find online for free. Some of them are good. Some of them are not so good. But we've gone over, I guess it might be helpful if we did another episode on what a good program looks like. This is kind of hard to do because it's going to be different for everyone, but we can do that episode. Let us know if you would like us to do that. But if you're following a program, then you can consistently, progressively overload, and you have a plan every day when you go into the gym. When you go into the gym without a plan, a lot of bad stuff can happen. I mean, this is like just something I've seen with so many people that come to me and say, hey, I've plateaued, I'm not making progress. And I say, well, what does your program look like? And they're like, oh, well, I go into the gym and then sometimes I do this for legs and then I'll do something like this for chest. And I'll ask, okay, well, like, how long have you been using 40s for your dumbbell bench press? They're like, oh, well, I usually just do like 4x10 with those 40s. Okay, well, how long have you been doing that for? Oh, like 6 months. Okay, well, of course you're not seeing any progress. Like, we need to progressively overload over time, or you're not going to get stronger and you're not going to build muscle. So a lot of people just go in, they don't have a plan, or even if they do understand that they have to progressively overload, they go in, but they're doing different exercises every single week. It can be okay to mix it up, give your joints a break, but if you're just picking random exercises every week, it's going to be really hard to get stronger over time. So that's probably the biggest one that 100%. I see.
And I think like what I like to do, and this is, probably not advice for everybody, but I would say at least once a year, you should probably test something close to your 1 rep max.
Yeah, I would say a 3 rep max or a 5 rep max is good for the average
something
person.
For like a general gauge of your total strength on a movement, whether it's a squat, horizontal press, vertical press, maybe like a rowing or deadlift. Just that way you have an actual gauge, and then you can use percentages to program things, right? Yep. Because you can be like, okay, so I'm going to start this exercise at 15 reps, 12 reps, 10 reps, 8 reps, and I'm going to start at 50% of my 1 rep max, and then add 2.5% every set I go down. So that, right, we're hitting 60% for 8 on that bottom set.
8,
2.5%,
78% for 8. Yeah,
No, if you start at 50 and you add 2.5
it's a
to
curve.
4
It's
sets.
it's not a straight line, it's a curve, but yeah, that idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're getting up there, and then you have that basic calculation you can do, and you can be like, okay, so what I like to do is I like to go generally in like 4 to 8 week like steps, and I do like, okay, week 1 I'm doing this weight for this exercise, this amount of reps, and then I just put it into like an Excel sheet, and I write a little equation, and like plus 2.5 or plus 10 pounds or whatever it is.
The point is he has a plan, and it's increasing over time. It almost doesn't matter what your plan is as long as you're progressively overloading over time.
100%.
That's the main point with that.
Yeah. And not for my biggest mistake that I would say people make is form. Like a lot of people, go back to squatting because it's always easy to make this. Like they're quarter squatting, they're, not going deep enough. They have bad, like hip position and like aren't bracing properly, stuff like that. Or like if they're benching, they're not using proper leg drive, so they're not on a stable platform, or their wrists are curled back like this. Like I see it all the time. These people who have impressive physiques and are pretty strong, but they just can't like put up numbers like they should. It's because their form is bad. Right? They might be able to hit like 255 on bench and like look really good at the beach, but they could probably be pushing 315 if they just fixed their wrists and like their shoulder position and like, locked their back in and, got a proper leg drive in there, but they're just not. They're just lower body is just floating while they're benching. So I would say most people would benefit greatly, especially if you're someone that like considers yourself a gym rat. Just drop the weight and go back to one plate on either side and focus on perfect form every single rep, like maximizing that time under tension and that full range of motion. Do that for a month.
Yeah,
and then
take some time and approach it like an athlete would approach a skill, because that's what it is. It's a skill, and you want to practice it when you go in to train. So this is shifting your mindset around a workout. You're not in there to just get a good sweat. You're in there to practice your skill and get better at it over time.
Yeah, 100%.
Nick, you have a mistake you see people make?
I just think that going consistently is like the biggest key. I guess that's kind of like following a program, but in my opinion, it would be better to go and not follow a program than it would just to not go at all.
That's true.
So I guess just building a habit of going consistently.
Yeah, and with that, I would say it's important for people to find the time that works best for them.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to say, oh, I'm not a morning person. But guess what? Any trainer that has worked in a gym can tell you the people that are there in the morning are the people that you see consistently. And you see them there for long periods of time, not in the gym for 2 hours, but over the course of years, they're always there in the morning because it's part of their routine. I think for a lot of people that try to go at night, sometimes they're tired after work and then they don't go. So some people, the morning just isn't going to work for them, whether their job starts too early or they have kids and for some reason like that schedule isn't going to work. Sean's the only dad here on the show. Yeah. So
True.
He could give more insight to that. But yeah, finding whatever time is going to work best for you and sticking to it so that you can be consistent and it just becomes part of your schedule.
Yeah. Well, I think like if you're a dad and you see people talking about this sometimes on social media now, it's like you don't want to be that dad that like is like fat and out of shape and doesn't have the longevity. Like you don't need to be going into the gym and putting up huge weight, but you need to be going in there so that when you're 75 years old, you can still interact with your grandkids, so that when you're 35, you can go play catch with your son and you can go run around with him and like be that father for him that shows him that you can do these things. Like the last thing you want to be is that guy that, you know, is kind of an example of a quitter. So like, if you are a dad and you're finding it hard to find the time and stuff like that, just remember that you want your son to look at you and be like, wow, my dad did this, so I'm going to do this. And you're inspiring him to take care of himself and to better himself physically, mentally, spiritually, all these different things. So if you're...
I think when dads are in good shape, it definitely inspires their sons, at least like from the male perspective here. Like my dad was pretty overweight, I guess, when I was younger. But then when I was probably like middle school, high school, he wound up losing about 40 pounds and got in pretty good shape. And to this day, he still now lifts all the time. So, like when I saw him do that, it was pretty inspiring to me, at like a, I guess, puberty kind of age.
Yeah. I mean, when I was around the same age, my dad would wake me up, you know, before I was homeschooled, but you know, before school started, and I would go do P90X with him in the basement. Cause you know, like he was a good athlete and, you know, was in good shape, and, you know, but then, you know, life happens, you get older, your metabolism slows down, and he'd gained some weight, but he was never like terribly overweight, but he would always was putting in the effort. And like, even now he's always going on walks. He swims like 2 or 3 times a week, goes to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. It's like lift, swim, and he like walks every single day. Yeah. So like, he's always doing something to like stay active and stay moving. And that's why like he can, you know, be that grandfather that's there. Like he has 8 grandkids now and can like be, you know, chasing them around and, you know, like loving them as, you know, like a grandfather could. But if he hadn't, you know, put that effort in to take care of himself and, you know, like tried to eat clean and, you know, like did everything possible, you know, working around like a tough business that he's in, that, you know, like if he hadn't put in that effort, like he would be in very poor health today.
Another big mistake that I see people make is with nutrition, and this is YoYo dieting. So YoYo dieting is a term. Some people call it zigzag dieting as well. You may have heard that one, where they slash their calories to try to lose weight. Maybe they do a fun new extreme diet that their friend did, whether that's keto or something else. Their friend lost 30 pounds doing it, so then they decide to do it. They slash their calories by a huge percentage. Go back a few episodes and listen to the episode that we did. Do you know what it was called, Sean? We broke down...
What was the topic?
We broke down some studies on like deficits. I guess look for an episode. Maybe Sean can pull it up. But it was on different calorie deficits and some research studies around those and what was most effective. But when you yo-yo diet and you slash your calories by 50%.
Cutting spending and cutting calories.
Cutting spending and cutting calories. If you missed that one, go back and listen to that one. We dove deep into some different studies and meta-analyses on that. But when you do that, your metabolism is going to slow down a lot. And then once you fall off that diet and you go back to eating the amount of calories you were eating before, you're going to gain weight because your metabolism is a lot lower than it was before. And this is how people consistently like fail diets and gain a bunch of weight, even though they're trying really hard to lose weight. So this goes back to that consistency that Nick talked about and being consistent.
But I mean, I think like the whole idea of dieting is silly. Like diet, like as a man, you should not be eating like a salad, you know, like that is just a bad move, you know, nutritionally. Like, I'm sorry, but like you need to be eating like high amounts of
You can put chicken on your salad.
No, but what I'm saying is like
you're saying just
like you're just eating like iceberg lettuce for lunch. So that's a bad move. Like there's no nutrition in that.
Yeah, it's water.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that like vegetables are bad, but what I'm saying is like these extreme diets where you're like, wow, I'm gonna go raw and I'm only gonna eat like raw vegetables and raw fruit.
That has a bunch of other problems,
yes.
Nutritionally from micronutrient context.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that like you need to pick something sustainable. Like for example, tonight, like I had like hamburgers, but it was literally just grass-fed beef with Worcestershire sauce and some olive oil and then some different seasonings, and you just you mush it all together, and then you make it into burgers and you throw them on the grill, and there you have burgers. And you can have like a cheeseburger, right? There's nothing inherently unhealthy about a cheeseburger. A cheeseburger from McDonald's is very different from one that you make at home.
Yeah, so Sean's dinner tonight was some beef patties and some cheese and some pickles.
Yeah.
Madison ate the same thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
But it's tasty. It tastes just like it does, I would say, better than from whatever fast food place.
The best diet is one that you can stick to.
Yeah.
Is the point. I think that Sean's trying to make here. So yeah, if you're following a diet for just a short period of time, you're probably going to wind up with results that were not the results you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I had is not recovering. For some people, this looks like 7 days a week lifting because they think that the more they lift, the better results they'll get. But you need to give your body time to recover. So if you're doing 7 days a week of lifting, I'd encourage you to try 3 days a week of full body and watch your results explode. You need to give your body time to recover. For some people, like me, that have a really hard time getting enough sleep, if you're a very type A kind of person and you know that about yourself, work on your sleep. Try to shoot for most people, it's probably going to be 7 to 9 hours is what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. For me, I have to push myself to try to get like 6 hours in a night because I'm such a type A person. It can be hard for me to put aside that amount of time for sleeping, but I know that over time that has a bad effect on me physically, not getting enough sleep. Yeah. I did a post on Ted's Lift Help a few years ago. It's outdated. I should do a new post on it, but it was on wearables, fitness trackers, smart watches, Whoop bands, that kind of thing. Right now I have an Oura ring that I got, and Alex has one too. And it shows you every night your sleep, how much time you're spending in different states of sleep. It gives you a sleep score, shows how much time you're in bed and how much time you slept, and it helps gamify it. So this can be really valuable for some people. If you're someone that struggles with your sleep, getting something like that can help you try to increase your score. So now every night my wife and I are trying to see who can get a better score. And usually I get like 4 hours less sleep than her, so I usually lose. But on the nights where I do a good job, like this weekend of trying to get like 6.5, 7 hours, sometimes I can beat her score.
Nice. And I guess for the last thing we have here, staying pigeonholed in the same training style, never switching up intent, rep scheme, intensity, etc. So like for me, like right now, I've been doing a lot more cardio, I've been a lot more running.
Sean and I are both doing a lot of running right now for an army thing that we're training for.
Yeah. So that's not fun, but I'm slowly starting to like kind of enjoy like these longer zone 2 runs, but I'm still, I still want to maintain what I have in the gym. And I noticed that like I feel pretty good doing higher reps, rather than focusing on like strength stuff. Cause like that high CNS load, cause that's what I was worried about, is like, I still want to be able to pull 5, but is that sustainable when I'm putting 25, 50 miles on my legs a week? Probably.
We were talking about this on the long run. We did an 8-mile run the other morning together. And Sean was saying, I'm really enjoying this. I just had to switch up my training style in the gym a little bit. I think you said you were doing like 3 full body days a week, and you said you're doing higher rep scheme. I'm in the same thing. Yeah. I'm in that 12 to 20 rep range right now. So
like what I'm switching over to is probably, rather than doing like my standard training style is probably like a minimum of 4 sets per exercise, 3 exercises per muscle group. So I'm generally a high volume type trainer, and I'll go from 15 reps down to 4 reps. So I'm stacking a lot of different things into that one training session, so it can be pretty draining. But what I found is pretty good, at least right now, is doing like 3 sets of 15 at like a pretty high intensity. So like 3 sets of 15 on bench at 225, like that really taxes me, but it's not the same like CNS load as doing a 5x5 or something like that. So you have to, for us, it's an outside factor that's influencing our training, but I would say that most people could probably benefit if you've been stuck in that kind of 5-3-1 mindset for a really long time. Go do some volume training.
It's what you said earlier. Earlier you said switch up your rep range every 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about here. Don't stay pigeonholed. We did an episode recently on machines. It was automating your finances and lifting with machines. Yeah. Switching up, going from those free weight exercises to machines. I'm not sure if Nick has ever done this in his life. Nick, have you?
What's that?
Have you ever gone over to machines from free weights for like an extended period of time, like 4 weeks?
No, I've always, I don't know. I don't enjoy machines as much. I don't know. I just kind of like doing barbell movements.
But you do switch up your rep ranges.
Oh yeah. Frequently. Yeah. Like I'll go anywhere from like I'll go through a period of just doing like heavy singles, and then sometimes I'll do sets of like 15. So the rep range does vary a lot.
Yeah. So switching up your rep range, switching up the intensity, moving from kettlebells to barbells and dumbbells to machines, doing these different things, switching up the way that you're training is going to be good for you to avoid those plateaus. Yeah. Anyone got any last thoughts on mistakes they see people make?
I don't have much. I feel like we've covered like the most common ones. Obviously the biggest mistake is not training, period, flat out. Like if you're someone that's just like, oh, the gym is no longer part of my life because I am no longer a college athlete, or I don't play high school football anymore, you're wrong. Like you need to be moving every single day. That's why we have an obesity crisis in this nation, because most people get less than like 4,000 steps a day.
That's certainly part of it. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today at Weights and Wealth. And don't forget to apply today's lessons to live healthy and wealthy.
If this conversation will contribute to your fitness and financial gains, please share it with a friend or family member and give a 5-star review so more people can lift bigger weights and get bigger bank accounts.